Welcome to Alasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey everyone, welcome to Alasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot and all things cryptid in the state of Alaska. I hope everybody's doing good out there. We are winding down in August up here in Alaska. It is getting a little chilly in the mornings. I woke up this morning, it was 47 degrees, I think it was. Actually, turned the heat on when I got downstairs because my dogs like to lay in front of the heater in the mornings, and I could just feel that chill in the air. So I turned it on, let them roast in front of the heater for a little bit like they like to do, and it's coming, people. It's not going to be long now. I do want to get out for at least one more overnight camping trip. It's going to be chilly, but I think I can do it. I've been, I've got to be honest with you guys. I said I'd always be honest with you. A little disappointed in the field activity this year. I don't know if it's because of the forest fire that went through last year or what, but I just haven't had much going on. And the one time that we did hear something, I didn't have an audio recorder. So, another year, and I learned something. So I guess it wasn't completely wasted. I learned to always have an audio recorder on me. But also, we're going into September, October, and that is statistically when a lot of sightings occur. So, we're coming into the busy season. I'm using air quotes. So maybe something will happen. I do plan to get out in the field a few more times, but like I said, probably just one more overnight where I sleep in a tent. And speaking of field expeditions, big congratulations to Extreme Expeditions. Those guys just got back from their Pend Oriole, I think that's how you say it, Pend Oriole County expedition. I understand they had a little bit of luck. It's not my place to say what happened, but I do understand they did some filming, and I'm sure there will be a documentary or a show coming out documenting their exploits there. Pretty jealous. Wish I could have went. I was invited, of course, but I couldn't. Actually, I could have went. I was off. I think I would have only had to maybe take one day off of work to go there, and I was off pretty much every day of the expedition. But because of the coronavirus restrictions, I couldn't attend because, although technically, if I was just like a normal Joe, it wouldn't have been a problem. But because of where I'm employed, they have extra restrictions in place where if you travel out of state, you have to quarantine for 2 days or for 2 weeks, or you have to get a test, 2 negative tests before you go back, which from what I understand could take about 2 weeks anyway. So basically I would have had to have burned 2 weeks of leave for a 1 week trip. And that gets pretty expensive pretty quick, when you start talking about burning leave. So anyway, I decided against going, although I really, really regret it. I think at the end of the day, when things get back to normal, having that extra week or 2 weeks of leave will, I think I'd rather have that probably than have to spend that leave sitting at home waiting on my test results. So there's not much more going on than that, people. It's but with everything going on, things have been kind of slow. Not a whole lot to report in the Bigfoot field. Not a whole lot of conventions or anything like that going on. In fact, I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but the third Sasquatch Roundup has been canceled. That was set to take place in November. A little disappointed about that, but at the same time, I probably I would have went no matter what the restrictions were, because I promised Steven I would be there. But it was probably going to be the same deal. So I'm really disappointed that it's canceled, but at the same time I'm kind of happy that I don't have to deal with traveling and the restrictions and all that mess. So I don't know. I don't know. Regardless of what your opinion is on all of this, I think we can all pretty much agree that it needs to, something needs to happen. It needs to stop. We need to get places back open. People need to start going about their lives. And I'm tired of wearing that damn mask. Although most places around here are pretty lax about it. You don't have to wear it, but there's a couple of places that are enforcing it. Anchorage, I guess, is got some pretty strict restrictions on. In fact, my wife and I were planning on going to Anchorage and doing some shopping and having a nice meal, and we kind of put our plans on hold because they had banned dine-in eating again. So we'll put a pin in that and go back to it later. Although we are planning a trip later in the month of September. We are going, we got an amazing opportunity to drive through Denali National Park. And it's, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I think probably maybe we'll record some video for that. We'll throw it up on the YouTube page. Don't expect any Bigfoot activity, although I think there has been a couple of sightings in there, maybe, if I remember correctly. I want to say that the one that I'm thinking of, it was from a tourist that was on a bus, and they basically just saw a large brown shape moving away from them, which could have been a moose, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're going to get to drive through there and hopefully get some amazing video. Hopefully the weather cooperates. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that brings me to the topic of this month's episode. It's kind of a filler episode, but I think it might interest, if you're listening to this, obviously you're interested in the outdoors, you're interested in camping and stuff like that. So hopefully there's some good information here for you. Recently, on one of our camping trips, my wife and I, we kind of decided we needed a new tent. We have an old, I think it's a 4-person Glacier's Edge tent. And it's not a bad tent, but it's old. I don't think we've taken I'm sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background. I apologize. We haven't taken really good care of it. In fact, last time I went to put it together, I realized I didn't have any of the stakes for it. I don't know. I have no idea where those stakes went, unless I took them out to put them in another tent kit or something. I don't know. Anyway, so we were kind of in the market for a new tent, and the last time I went solo camping, I had a really hard time finding a place to put up my tent. I found a couple of places and they weren't very level, and then I found another place. This is in a designated camping ground, not out just bush camping. And I found another area, and there was like, in the campsite where would have been prime tent placement. It was full of dog poop, and it just kind of bummed me out. And I was thinking, man, I need another option here as opposed to just throwing my tent on the ground. So I got to looking, and I found a company called Napier, and they make tents that go in the back of a pickup truck. So this is a truck tent. If you just Google Napier Truck Tent, it should come up. I believe their website is napieroutdoors.com, something like that. And so I started looking at these tents, and I kind of fell in love with them, just looking at them on the web there. And I thought, man, I've got to try this, because basically it just transforms the bed of your truck into your tent. And they're pretty tall. It's almost like having a camper in the back of your truck. You can almost stand up in it. In fact, I mean, I can stand up in it, but I have to hunch forward a little bit. My wife, I think she can pretty much stand up completely, maybe just have to bow her head forward a little bit. But Anyway, I was looking for them online. Had a really hard time because, it's obviously it's like end of July, beginning of August. It's prime camping season. Had a really hard time finding one in stock. None were in stock locally. And when I say locally, I mean like Anchorage. So I ended up ordering one. I think I ordered it from Cabela's. And I screwed up. And instead of paying for the expedited shipping, I went with the shipping. They told me, I think it was like free for standard shipping. And they told me it was going to be like 7 days or something. 7 to 10 days, I think, for the standard shipping. So that's what I chose because I thought, I've got to work for like the next 7 days, so it doesn't matter if it gets here between now and then or not. And now I'll have it for my next week off. So that's what I did. Screwed up. Should have paid for the shipping. And they sent it FedEx Smart Post, which is just, if you don't know what that is, I bet if you live in Alaska, I bet you know what it is. But basically that's when somebody ships you something like FedEx or UPS, they'll ship it. And it starts off with the UPS or FedEx, and it travels pretty fast. Its point of origin, let's say it starts off in like Alabama or something. It'll start off in Alabama. It'll go to like the hub in Louisville or wherever the hub is, and then it goes to Washington, and then it sets in Washington where it gets handed over to the post office, and it sets in a warehouse until they either, I'm not sure if they're waiting on a certain amount of mail to send it up here, or if it just like first come, first serve, like this batch got here first, so it's going out, and then it just sits there basically for a couple of weeks. So it took 20 some days for it to get here when it's supposed to take 7 to 10. So I missed out probably on at least a week's worth of camping with it, and kind of bummed me out. But it finally did get here. So what I got, I actually ended up going, I couldn't really choose. I had to pick what they had in stock. So I actually got the Sportz Truck Tent, the 57 series, the camo one, which is a little bit more pricey. I think if you buy just the plain Jane regular version, they're about $180. This one, because it's the sports version, was like $300. But it does have some features that the regular plain Jane version doesn't. First off, it's camo, so there's that. Not that because it's, unless your truck's camouflage, it's not really going to matter. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing. It has better waterproofing than the standard version. This has 1200 mmPU. I don't know what any of these stand for. 1200 mmPU material coating for waterproofing. It has fiberglass and steel poles, which I'll talk about the poles here in a little bit. The tent material is 75D 190T polyester taffeta. And the floor material is polyester Oxford. It has a gear loft and a lantern holder, which we did use. It has a little pocket on the side. It has a really nifty carrying bag, which I didn't have hardly any problems at all getting it back into the bag. Poles and everything included. I know everything, everybody always talks about how hard it is to get the tent back in the bag. I generally don't have a problem with it. What you have to do is when you fold your tent up, you have to use the poles basically as a guide as to how to fold the tent. You have to fold the tent to the length or shorter than the poles to get it back in the bag. The bag, it's actually a pretty high quality bag. It expands, so you can make it a little bit bigger. Although I think I could have probably got it in there without expanding the bag. Anyway, so I'm going to get into some pros and cons of this tent and see maybe if you want to spend your money on one. I have to say, it's definitely got pros and it's definitely got cons. I think probably the pros outweighs the cons. But bear in mind, I've only I've only used the tent for one trip. I slept in it for 2 nights. I've only put it together once, so just keep that in mind. This is actually, this is a short-term review. I've only had the tent for a little bit, so keep that in mind. In another year, I might be back on here saying it's rubbish. But so anyway, the tent, it says in the materials, in the instructions, and in the literature online, it says it takes 15 minutes to set the tent up. I think it took us this, and keep in mind, this is the first time we got it. We didn't practice with it. We just took it straight out to our camping area and put it up. My wife and I thought the instructions were pretty clear. I did see some areas where there could be some confusion, but I think as long as you just pay attention to the instructions, I think you'll be okay. The poles are color coded, but there are 2 poles that are pretty much the same color. Although one's a short green pole and one's a long green pole. So I don't, I could see how initially that might confuse you, but as long as you just compare the 2 poles, the 2 green poles, one is obviously longer than the other. It took us a little bit longer to put it together than I thought it would. Although we were stopping and, looking at the instructions, I didn't get to the point where we had to undo anything. Like we didn't have to take apart a piece and then redo it. But I did end up resetting there's latches that kind of attach to the underside of your truck, and you can tighten them down. I did end up repositioning those just because I didn't like the way we had initially put them on there, and I actually kind of looked at the box that the tent came in, or the bag, and kind of saw how they had theirs on, and I kind of mirrored what they did, and I think it worked out a lot better. The original way that we had put it on there, it actually was putting a lot of stress on the material. I was pulling it pretty taut, so I ended up changing that and making it look like it did in the picture, and it seemed to work out a little bit better. I was pretty happy with the ruggedness of the tent, the tent floor. I felt like I could go in there and walk around with my boots on. It wasn't going to tear up the floor. I was happy with the height of the tent. Like I said, I could almost go in there and stand up. Although we ended up putting an air mattress in the tent, in the bed, or the bed of the truck. And we didn't spend a whole lot of time in there. Granted, we pretty much just went in there when we were going to sleep. Although I think my plan for the future of this tent is when I go out by myself, I'm going to get a cot, just a single man cot, and use that. I'll put that down and kind of put it to one side. That'll give me the rest of the truck bed to use. Most tents, they're pretty cramped, and you can't really, it's hard to do anything in them other than just lay down and go to sleep. You can't get in there and change clothes. It's hard to put your shoes on or do, anything basically inside of a tent, other than maybe change a shirt. It's hard to change your pants. You kind of got to do the worm and wiggle around on the floor. And definitely with this tent, you've got room. You can basically stand up. You can change clothes. You can change pants. You can put on a new shirt. You can stand up and twirl around, and you have plenty of room as long as you don't have like an air mattress on the floor like we did. So I think my plans for the future include just putting a little cot in there, and that should give me plenty of room. In fact, I could have room for like a little nightstand or something in there if I wanted to. I could probably put a little table in there. It could basically be like a little camper. So I was really impressed with the roominess and the interior of the tent. There's a lot of poles. I think I counted, and I can't remember how many there were, but there's like 10 poles that put this thing together. The installation of the poles was kind of a con. Putting the tent up, I think was kind of a con in my book. There was some concerns. So basically, the tent, you just slide it in the back of your truck, and then you start installing the poles, which lift the tent up, create the frame of the tent, just pretty much just like any other tent. There's these little nylon pockets that the poles seat in, and that creates the tension for the poles to bend and lift and create the frame. And that was okay. There was a problem. The long green pole that creates the awning, basically the doorway, that pole, I don't understand how it didn't break. That thing was bent almost like 180 degrees. And it was under a lot of pressure, and nothing that I did, like I thought that I was like, man, that does not seem right. So I tried to relieve some of the pressure on it by, undoing a couple of straps here or there, or, I tinkered around with it quite a bit. Could not find a way to relieve the pressure on that awning pole. The awning pole, I think is what it's called. So I don't know if that's just the way it was designed, or maybe if we did something wrong. I could not find any mistakes that we made. We followed the instructions pretty much to the letter. I did go back and loosen up a couple of the straps to try and relieve some of the pressure. When we took the tent down, you could tell that pole was basically permanently bent. I mean, it was up for 2 days in that position. It was bent almost at 180 degrees. And I don't know. I felt like that was a lot of pressure on that pole. And in fact, if you go to the website, the Napier Outdoor website, you can order extra poles. And just kind of as a preventative strike, I am going to order an extra one of those, the green awning pole, and I'm going to order maybe an extra black pole, or maybe 2 extra black poles, just in case, because I feel like that green pole is going to break someday. And I did notice too, while we were putting the tent up, some of the black poles were kind of, you could tell they were under a lot of stress. You could hear them kind of cracking as we were hoisting the tent up. And I did read a couple of reviews where some people were complaining about the poles breaking. So I am going to order some extra poles just to keep as a just in case scenario. And if you pick one of these tents up, I suggest you probably should do the same. Maybe even order them when you order the tent. But that's really my biggest concern with the tent, is that green awning pole, and just with some of the poles potentially breaking. I'm kind of curious to see how it goes when I have to put it up by myself. My wife helped me this time. There was 2 of us. I've seen videos of guys putting it up by themselves, so I know it can be done, but I think it might take me a little bit longer than 15 minutes. We'll see. I might practice with it a little bit in the driveway before I go out by myself with it. But anyway, it's got a window in the back. So if the back window of your truck slides open, you can access your vehicle, even if it's just to reach an arm in there and grab something. I think it has little ports where you can put chargers. You can run a charger from your truck to the back of the tent. My truck window the back window does not open, so that's pretty much useless to me. And that brings me to my other con. Basically, the 2 cons I have for this tent is that the putting it up is a little difficult, and the window situation. So there's 2 windows, there's 3 if you count the one in the back, but technically there's 2 windows, one on each side, and the rainfly covers the windows up, and it covers, it's like on the window. There's no room between the rainfly and the windows. The rainfly sets on the window, and there's no way to roll the rainfly up on the sides so you can use the window. The rainfly basically has to be on or off. There's not really an in between. And I feel like I think probably they're going to improve on that in the future generation of this tent. It would have been really nice, especially during the day. We wake up, there's a little bit of condensation in the tent. It would have been nice to be able to like roll the rain fly up and open the window to let some air get in, to help with the condensation situation, because as it stood, all I would have, the only option I really had was just to remove the rain fly. Well, then if I'm out, if I'm away from the truck, or, we go on a hike, or we're fishing, or, whatever, and it starts raining, which sometimes, it does here, just a rogue rain cloud will come over and just dump some rain. You've got to get back to your tent and throw the rain fly over it, or everything inside is going to get wet. So it would have been nice it would be nice to have that option to roll the tent up, or the rain fly up over that window, or at least one of the side windows, so you could get some airflow in there. We left the door open and would leave the net over the door and let air get in there that way. But it would have been nice to be able to open the window and you just use the window like if you wanted to when you're inside the tent. But so far, we have not figured out a way to do that. Another small con that I have with it, and this is kind of one of those no-brainer things, is by using the bed of your truck as your tent, you lose the bed of your truck as your storage. Generally when I'm out camping and I like to use totes. I have a tote that I have all my gear in, and then we have a cooler with our drinks and a cooler with our meat or food. And generally, if there's something that I want to kind of secure or put up, I'll put it in the back of the truck. And with the tent in there, you kind of lose that. And you don't want to sleep in the tent with your cooler. I actually kind of came up with a brilliant idea, and we were trying to figure out what to do with the food cooler. And I didn't want to put it in the cab of the truck because for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want the food to be where we were. Even if it's in the cab, a bear might, come and investigate the truck. And two, I was afraid the cooler might leak. We had ice in the cooler. It has a little plug on the end. I didn't want that plug coming loose and then leaking water all over my truck. So I kind of come up with a brilliant idea. Where we were camping, there's one spot there, one camping spot. There's what's called like a vault toilet, a bathroom that you can go into and sit down and go to the bathroom, but there's no running water in there. So I just said, well, we'll just put the cooler in the bathroom. So that's what we did. We put our food cooler in the bathroom and set it in there overnight. Our drink cooler we actually used as the step, because you have to step up into the back of your truck. You basically have to step up onto your tailgate to get inside the tent. So I just set the drink cooler kind of under the tailgate there and used it as a step to get in and out of the truck. And I think it pretty much stayed there the entire time we were camping. Although maybe eventually in this future I may get like a step ladder or a stool or something to put there. We'll see. We'll see how that evolves. But other than that, I enjoyed the tent. I thought it was very comfortable. Of course, we were able to get a queen size air mattress in there and sleep on that. I thought it stayed fairly warm. It did get a little chilly in there, but otherwise, I like the tent. I think the cons kind of outweigh the pros. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. The pros outweigh the cons. I liked being up off the ground. I thought that was a nice touch. It was nice. You didn't have to worry about like a bear coming up and getting in the back of your tent or something. It does kind of limit your options. Like with most tents, obviously most tents just have one door anyway. This tent, it does have the back window thing where you could, I guess if you really had to, you could probably open that and crawl out onto the top of your truck, onto the cab. Say if there was a bear trying to get in the front of the tent or something. But I felt a little safer being up off the ground. I don't know. I liked it. We're gonna keep using it. Price was, I thought it was a little expensive for what it was, but it is supposed to be a 3-season tent, and like I said, it's made out of a little bit thicker material than your normal tent. So hopefully it holds up. Time will tell. I think probably in the future, the version that I have, it has an awning that kind of comes out over the front entrance, and we ended up just kind of, because we were following instructions to the letter, we ended up putting the awning up and using the awning. But I think probably in future trips, unless it's supposed to rain, I will probably not be using the awning. Just because it didn't really seem to serve a purpose other than maybe keeping rain out of the entryway, out of the door. So anyway, people check it out. It's available on most outdoor stores, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops. I think Amazon even sells them, although from what I was looking at Amazon's listings for them, the sizing was a little confusing. I think it's best if you go to the actual Napier Outdoors website and find out what size you need. If you've got just a regular pickup truck with like a 6.5 foot bed, I think it's a good option for you. I have to recommend it. I can't find any reasons not to recommend it other than, it's a little pricey. I do recommend you get some extra poles for it. And I enjoyed it, and I look forward to using it in the future. Hopefully I'll get to use it one more time before the end of the year, or end of the season. And I think I'm going to put a pin in it there. I'll follow up as I use the tent throughout the years, hopefully, and let you guys know how it performs. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the summer. I will hopefully be back soon with maybe some audio or pictures or something from one of my trips. Hopefully we'll get something good. Like I said, this year, as far as field work goes, we've been kind of skunked. So we'll see what happens. Hope you guys are safe out there, and take care. I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.